So I'm not a big fan of the EC3. Um, I am a big fan of the IC3, and this cap is mostly why. I notice a lot of the these guys stuff, the XD or whatever, the 60s, XD90, whatever it is, that XD stuff, which is mostly like the paramount thing on everything you can buy, is pretty prominent on all RC stuff. So it comes with a cap now. So this little cap that I love on the IC3s. So I've always kind of been my nemesis. I started out buying like some from the hobby shop that were knockoff instead of going straight Spectrum or Horizon brand, and I think that was most of my aggravation. But I can solder, so I'm good, because I find that I can get a whole bunch compared to what I can get for these orange ones. So I usually use a lot for that purpose. I usually use these little glassy thingies to give me, and it's got a cool little light on it. You know, you can light up the exact point on the joints you're trying to solder, and that makes it a lot easier. I do recommend, let's see if I can get this in frame. I didn't plan for it, but that's the soldering iron I use. It's like my second iron, I guess. The one I have has got like a whole bunch of arms off the top. I don't know why I don't use that one in the workshop here, because I end up doing most of my soldering here, and I got the other one set up in the garage. So anywho, the name brand and stuff is not important. You just want to get you something decent with a, a decent pencil that you can control, and you want to get you some solder that's appropriate for the electronics that you're using, and some flux. And you can use, I used a liquid flux for many years, and I started getting close to the end, so I kind of started trying these paste ones, and I find that they work. There's no issue. So first things first is I want to cut the heat shield off of the other connectors. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people may say, well, you could just get an adapter. People are always, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people that are just, I guess, what we could call them in my neck of the woods is haters. So you could plug an adapter in here, and Venom makes them, and they're cheap enough, and you could just use this, but that's another connection, and you can see how easy I slid that in there. I'm already going to be plugging one thing in. Why would I want two plugs for something that's, flying in the air, kind of, I wouldn't say not as high performance as, like, let's say cars, where you're really completely on the edge at all times of blowing things up. Airplanes tend to be a lot less stressful on the electronics. So anywho, I'm going to put a nice little slice on one of the two. Now, everybody knows, you've heard all this stuff about lipo this, lipo that. So I just do one at a time. You do it how you want to do it. I did a little short review on this jig, which of course one guy really hated on me, like actually two guys. So I just did a quick video on the jig itself, and I took a piece of wire and soldered it onto a joint of a connector, right? Like one of these style connectors. And just to show the use of the jig and how cool it was. And one guy actually had the audacity to comment that, oh, well, all that's cool, but you're putting the positive on the negative terminal. Like, really, dude? Okay, sure. But I didn't even use that. It was just strictly for the video. So I guess, man, whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy, do it. But in that case, I could have fired back and say, well, I was just making an adapter to connect two batteries. Then I would have went with I could have used any color wire I wanted to. But anyway, those kind of people, just let them do what they want to do, and that makes their life special. And I'm here for you. Whatever makes your life special, I support. So anywho, I'm gonna see if I can get a good shot of this, because desoldering can be quite intimidating. So I got my iron heating up. I'm gonna get the storage solder on the tip off before I try to do anything. So I got my tip nice and thin. I'm gonna grab my wire and commence the desolderization. And I didn't imagine this was going to be as hard as it is because I'm actually behind the camera trying to do it. So, all right, once I had the correct heat, you could see that went off pretty quickly. I'm going to switch off my solder and iron, hold the battery at an angle so that the springiness, I'm sorry, I hold the battery at an angle like that so that the springiness of the red wire is pulling away from everything. All right, so then I didn't mention this little rubber thingy. It's like one of those little phone things that you sit on the dash of your car. So I found that this jig is awesome. Like, you know, it's just a little jig. You can clamp, you can put two wires together if you want. You can do all kinds of sorts of stuff with it. So anywho, I found it very useful for this situation. But it slides. So when I put it on this little thing, and I prefer to have the flat one that I couldn't find for this video. But anyway, I find that makes it very usable. So anyway, I had to use this cradled kind because of that. So anyway, you could put a little piece of tape so you don't have a folly. And I'm going to cut off the other heat shield. Heat shrink, sorry. All right, so I am going to put that red wire out of my way so it's not trying to pull things. I'm going to stay zoomed a little further back this time. I'm going to put my solder iron to, and I do have different settings on here that I could set it like to a 1 and a 2. Of course, I never set all that up. So anywho, I'm going to set it on here, put a little solder. It's still heating up, actually didn't reach temp yet. Get it a little closer to solder temp. Push it down in the jaws of this jig. Give it some juice to start the binding or debinding process. And hope that I'm not covering it with my... Yep, I'm not. Alright, so I am close, but the connector is moving, which is an aggravation. Another jig that I use, that I'm going to use to put the connectors on, is probably better for desoldering than this one is, but this just happens to be what I grabbed. You know what, let me show that one. So this one's called the Jigs Up, and I already have my barrel connectors in there for the solder I'm going to do with that, because this thing holds them awesomely. So I'm kind of not perfect because I'm trying to use it in this same little cradle because I didn't feel like repositioning my camera. So anywho, try to get that as best I can. All right, that's somewhat secure. So I'm gonna hold my wire like usual. I'm gonna get it hot and pull it out. Like I said, it's just that easy when you got the right temp and you got the right angle and the jig's not moving. All of those things kind of need to correspond with each other. And now I got my two leads. All right, so now I'm gonna just leave that sitting in there, and I'm gonna go to this side and gonna get some flux wherever it's at. Kind of zoom into these two. And then of course I'm gonna hit the camera trying to do stuff. This is extremely hard to do with a camera in front, you know. And if you come back with the camera, you kind of, it makes it harder to get exactly what you want to get. So I don't know. All right, so when you're doing ECs, you just do the plugs like, you know, these, and then you stick them into the connector from the back side. You actually force them in and they click in. So I'm gonna get my soldering iron heated up again. So these are fairly fat wires, which are 12 gauge. And my rig for the camera is right in the way. All right, let's see, can I work out something? Because I'm gonna ultimately do a lot of these, but I wanted to kind of get it on camera, so I'll struggle through this one before I do the rest of these. It ends up being a few of them when I do it because, like I said, people in my club want stuff soldered, and I'll have like a few jobs to do when I do solder something. So I'm a molten the pool inside the connector, and then I'm gonna pull my tip to the edge of it, so it's still kind of sitting there, but still heating it, but not so great. And then I'm gonna kind of get the tip of the wire there, and I kind of got it in, but not ideally. And now I'm kind of in between the two and forcing it in. All right, so this is where like helping hands and things like that, little solder hands come in handy. And the jigs up little device that I'm using, this jig, is awesome for these little plugs because you can heat them up a lot without worrying about it, you know. All right, so I'm gonna just put a little bead there, and then I'm gonna hold my wire straight and let it dry, not dry, but you know, cool down slightly. A little bit of the wire kind of frayed to the side that I didn't see, so I'm gonna just take the edge of my soldering iron and fold that back in. Now I could put a little more solder there, but it's a decent joint, not my best, and I'm impressed that I can get it that good because the fact that I'm doing this from behind this camera in such a ridiculous kind of setup that I've got going here. So at this point I need to stabilize this. I'm gonna just use the top of this and see what I can do. There we go. So I'm gonna check my joint. It's pretty good. Yeah, as long as you see that little completely all the way around, it's welded, right? Soldered. So this is the negative terminal or negative wire. The ECs are marked on each connector, so that's cool. There it is, positive. I'm not going to put this negative into the positive, even though I just did. I'm going to put it into the negative side for the person who's going to want to correct the person doing the video on any little nitpicky stuff. There you go. All right. Now, like I said, these things, I kind of hated them for a good while because I had cheap ones and I didn't really know. But I'm going to just take this and I'm going to get this on the flat spot of the connector. And then it shouldn't take a lot of force. That was the problem I had with the other ones. I had to put excruciating force and I would break the plastic and everything else. But I found these to go in way easier. So here we go. Kind of hard to hold still yet. All right, that's it. I heard it do the little click. I'm pulling on it with pretty good force. And that's it. It's in. I'm gonna get the other one set up and then show you that quick solder job just so I'm full, and then, you know, trying to maybe edit a little bit on this so you don't get so much of the exact same thing. Of course, I still got the flux you saw me put in there in. And I hope this stays in focus because I really can't see because I'm soldering. So barring burning yourself, you don't want to be looking at a camera while you're trying to solder. And if you've looked at any of my videos ever, you know that I normally don't have much help, which is an argument between my wife and I, because of course all the best folks at this are a team. So I heated the barrel, I heated the wire, and I got scared for a second, and my tip is dirty, so let me clean that. All right, and I got to do a hell of a maneuver just to get this in position to do it on camera, so please excuse the fumbliness. All right, so I kind of partially soldered it, and then all right, now it's molten. I'm gonna hold it straight up until it dries. I'm gonna get this hot iron out of the way because I gotta go through all kind of wires and stuff because of the camera. Alrighty, I am going to show you the joint and try to show you the joint. So it is hard to show you. All right, let's see if I grab this. I'm gonna pull this back. You see it? It's all like, it's solid. Really hard to show though. So if you get it and you're like, mine is solid, but in some situations you might get it where it's not completely solid, or you see strands of wire and you're not satisfied with it. I'm gonna show you what to do, even though I hope I don't mess up this good joint just trying to show you. All right, my iron's heating back up. You'll take your solder, and some people just put it on the tip. Like, you could just make the tip hold a little solder. I'm gonna hold the battery lead so that it will, you know, not flop out, because if you do, it's gonna flop out. And I'm gonna just put this in the gap and start moving it back and forth. And it's molten again. I can see the solder liquefied. So if you don't have a good puddle, when you first pull it out, do what I just did. A little bead of solder, get it molten again, and come on, focus for us. See it? Completely molten all the way around. And by me going back, I do have a slight lip on the outside, and I'll just take that off with my X-Acto knife if it's, you know, look like it's going to be in the way of mounting it inside the blue. But I could tell you it's not a real big deal. So see if I can get another successful snap on the blue. And like I said, I used to hate these so bad. I even broke this little screwdriver in my little set. It's a Stanley little set. Doing this same maneuver, hitting it with a hammer or something, you know, because it wouldn't go in. Didn't know what's going on. All right, I got a nice little ledge right where that lump was, and I'm going to push. I'm always scared that I'm going to, it snapped in. I'm always scared that I'm going to slip and, you know, whatever happens when you slip holding. All right, I'm going to check my connection on both wires. That's pretty secure and tight. So that's it. Positive side to positive, negative side to negative. Final check. And that's it. The battery's ready to charge, or whatever you may want to do with it. So that's a little solder tutorial for connectors, EC3. I might do IC3. It's a much easier process, but that's EC. Thanks for watching. I hope you like it. I hope it helps. If you need to criticize, please do so.